Hello and welcome back to Advanced Hwoarang Lessons. We're not done talking about this character, even if I've talked about this character way too much. You can tell by like the two playlists I have here, Open Hwoarang Lessons and Advanced Hwoarang Lessons. Feel free to check out those resources while they're still relevant, because Tekken 8 is gonna be here soon. We're gonna talk about this move, the jab strings in RFF, and my goodness, are there a lot of jab strings in RFF. Let's get to it. First one that we have to cover is obviously RFF2, because this is where all the jab strings stem from. So RFF2 or RFS2, they're more or less the same move, is, well, with slight caveats of course, because RFS2 comes out at I13 and RFF2 comes out at 10 frames. And that's the first major difference. This move comes out at 10 frames, is +8 on hit, and is, compared to other jabs, +2. You heard that right. This move is +2 on block compared to your regular jab, which is only +1 on block. And the only other jab I can think of off the top of my head that is as plus is Ganryu's jab, which is like +3. But that's a given since he doesn't have a regular 10-frame move. His 10 frames F1 +2. Hwoarang has regular 10-frame moves. So it's cool to have it at +2. And on counter hit, well, you don't get really that much of a difference. It's still, what do you call this? 10 frames. Just slightly higher damage. If you saw that on the left side of the screen, that went from 6 damage to 7 damage. Yay. That is RFF2. Pretty much a superior jab. Just imagine if this was Hwoarang's original jab in LFF, but you know, can't have that. So RFF2 can move to a ton of things, and one of them is RFF2-1. This move jails. So if I try to switch this to crouch guard and I go from standing guard, if I press RFF2-1, Hwoarang's not ducking the second hit of RFF2-1. That's an important note, and we're gonna keep doing that over and over again for strings or jab strings that involve 2 or 3 hits for Hwoarang in the RFF series, RFF2 series. So it also, again, since it does come off the RFF2, it instantly is 10 frames, and it's +6 on hit. And what's interesting about this one is that it's 0 on block. So you're not at +2 frame advantage, but you can still do something with it. I mean, same thing when you're at +2. You can still do a DF1 check. You can do another jab check. You can sidestep. You can backdash. Basically all the Tekken universal stuff that you've always been doing. And there's nothing on counter hit. If you get the 2-1, you just +6. And you move from a whopping, how much? 16 damage to, again, 17 damage. That +1. Juicy. And of course, this full string ends at RFF2-1-1. And yes, that is a natural combo. And you 3 hits, 28 damage. And when that connects, you're +3. And on block, you're -8. And that sets up the punch parry setup into 4-3 or 4F4 or DF1-3. Just take your pick, either one. Links in the description for everything about Beck's punch parry that Hwoarang has inherited. Now at +3... you're more or less, you know, it's like 1-2-3 or 1-2-4 on block. So you can DF1, DF1 +2, backdash sides. Again, all the Tekken universal stuff. There's not really a lot of stuff that will be getting backdashed. So if we go to backdash here, we're gonna do RFF2-1-1, DF1 +2. Forget what I said, that nothing's really getting backdashed. Yeah, forget what I said, that nothing's really getting backdashed. So it is like the 1-2-3, 1-2-4 situation on block. Just a little harder to use. Because you can do that, which will, again, that's 16 frames. So that turns from 16 to 13. Not bad if your opponent chooses to backdash. And if they sidestep, you should be covered for a certain side. That catches sidestep left. Does it catch sidestep right? No. So it only covers for the left side. So it's like, okay, what else do I do here? I guess you do highs. And down back 4. Hooray. The Horang life. Nothing's really changed here. You can do also F1 plus 2. However, again, you're only plus 3. So F1 plus 2 again, 15 frames. So again, you do the math, 15 minus 3, you're gonna end up at 12. But is it backdashable? Yes. So it's only there if the opponent is stepping. So if they step towards the right, which forward 2 can't cover, you do that. And you can also throw this out. Homing move. Because again, it's gonna be a 13 frame homing move. So not a lot of options, but there are options to use. You just can't use your standard DF1 and DF1 plus 2 at all. For the other ones, the RFF 2-1, that's plus 6 on hit. That does not need, like, even if I put that in backdash, it should not lose. There, see? Again, one of them's gonna win. One of them's gonna win. So that's on the RFF 2-1. If you do the RFF 2, yeah, there you go, see? So in descending order, RFF 2 gets both RFF 2-1, DF1 plus 2, and then RFF 2-1-1, or even just 1-1, nothing. And speaking of RFF 1-1, this is literally the last 2 hits of RFF 2-1-1. And you're gonna end up with the same story. Yeah, DF1 and DF1 plus 2 are both gonna miss. Its frame data is more or less the same. Again, it's also I10 1-1. So that's plus 3 on hit, which is the same as RFF 2-1-1. That's plus 3 on hit. And it's also gonna be negative 8 on block. Again, there's nothing on counter hit for this aside from more damage. Now, you heard that right. Yes, the 1-1 is 10 hit, I10. So that means also RFF1 by itself is I10. And that's plus 6 on hit. And interestingly, 0 on block. But you can see what's also interesting about this move is that the spacing on it, on hit. You see how sometimes the second hit whiffs there and sometimes it blocks? So that means it creates a lot of distance on hit from time to time. I don't know if like that's super consistent or not, but it can happen. So that's like something you have to watch out for. So if you wanted to follow up against an opponent, you do RFF1 and then you do another RFF1, you might just whiff. So you could like safeguard that by just doing an RFF1 after an RFF1 if you wanted to just do that. But the safer bet is to do an RFF1 and then an RFF2. There. So it also may lose. So instead of that, you just do an RFF4. Or a down back 4. Or a down 3-4. Or an RFF DF4. Take your pick. So that's the jabs. The RFF2, RFF2-1, RFF1-1. That covers all the jabs. Let's cover the other strings. Like RFF2-4. This is plus 3 on hit. Which means, yes, you get you get exactly the same situation as 1-1 or RFF2-1-1. Wow, yeah. That is what it is. Same options apply. And this move is negative 8 on block. And it jails. This move jails. Just like, what do you call this? RFF2-1. This move jails. However, if you press the full string, 2-4-4, that still jails. But if you delay it, because that option is available, that doesn't jail. So that's the whole mind game around that. And we'll get back to RFF2-4 in just a bit. But yes, this string does jail. And that will move us on closer to this one. The one that you'll see a lot in Tekken 8. RFF2-4 forward. This move is plus 17 on hit. Plus 16 if you move forward. Or it says plus 18 there. So roughly your range is 16 to 18 on hit. And then on block, you're plus 6 to plus 7. Sometimes plus 8 on block. And its options on, of course, versus the backdash are as follows. So if you do an RFF2-4, right? That will always get backdashed. So you always have to do it with an RFS1 or an RFS forward 3 to stay safe. If you wanted to use a mid. And of course, the Hell Sweep also gets backdash. And that's just an average backdash. So using it, you can just really just loop it, and the second hit will catch. But if they're not backdashing, oh, you have a you're just gonna bully them. That's what's gonna happen. On the steps, there's really not a lot they can step because, you know, RFS F4 pretty self-explanatory, and the RFS 1 is gonna do its job. And you have again +8, +6, 7, 8 frames to work with. And on counter hit, this move is, you know, interesting frame data for it on counter hit. If you get RFF 2-4, it doesn't counter hit, right? But if you get the second hit of RFF 2-4 to counter hit, that goes in. So counter hit frames I8 +8 on counter hit, it's actually +14 because you're allowed to get an RFS 4. So if they get hit by the second hit, even if that's up close and you're at the wall, you RFS 4, you get the wall splat, and that's gonna be a, you know, juicy damage. But you cannot get bigger stuff. Like in the frame data, it says 18. If you caught that earlier, it's +18G, but 14 frames of it are guaranteed. Only if, again, the second hit of RFF 2-4 hits. Now, technically, again, this is also like RFS 2-4, but then that'll be the 13 frame variant. Just to know, for like all the RFF jab stuff I'm mentioning, you can do it all in RFS, but just add the startup frames to 13 instead of 10, because right now all of this is 10 frames. Now, of course, if we go to move to 2-4-4, again, the whole string jails, except the last part showed you that earlier. And if it does hit, right, if 2-4-4 hits, so I just need to get the last hit to hit here, it will knock down. Or rather, this is in Tekken 8, so it doesn't knock down. It launches if the last hit hits, naturally. Now, on counter hit, it's not the first hit. Again, just like RFF 2-4 forward, it has to be the second hit. So essentially, RFF 4-4, this move, is the one where it starts counter hitting, because RFF 4-4, that's when the counter hit, it launches on counter hit. So it's the same thing applies here for RFF 2-4-4. And on block, this move is -5. Again, same as RFF 4-4. It's essentially RFF 4-4 slapped onto RFF 2-4-4. But it does help because now you can do it off the jab and you can create space off the jab, which is fantastic. Aside from like, just what do you call that, holding it in and be like, hey, am I going to enter Flamingo? Am I going to enter Flamingo? So that's part of it. Do I enter Flamingo? No. Did I enter Flamingo? Yes. Did I not enter Flamingo and create space? Maybe, perhaps, you know, it's the mind games on top of like doing RFF 2-4. So you get why now you understand why. Now you understand why your opponent kind of holds it when they see the RFF 2-4, because they're like, is it the 4? Am I gonna get counter hit? Do I have to be afraid of getting counter hit? Are they entering Flamingo? Or are they just doing the 4 by itself? Or are they doing the third one, which is essentially RFF 4-3, 2-4-3. Now on hit, this move, yes, knocks down, you get the RFF forward 3 follow-up. And then on block, you kind of just die, it's -15, because unlike RFF 4-3, you can't space this out to like make it safer. Just to show you again, RFF 4-3, see that? -12. Again, another video on screen, links in the description to like how it works, why it gets safer. But for 2-4-3, you kind of can do that, like whiff over here. So it's another thing, like if you're spacing out here and you throw that out, your opponent's like, do I just approach him? Because if they approach, RFS F4 could hit them. RFS back 4 could hit them. If they press a high, Snake Edge will hit them. And then the 4 will launch them. And this, the third hit, will hit them. And wow, that just catches crazy. Its range is really, really far. And then if you just do 4-2-4, so it's like kind of like just a really good move to just throw out if you want to like be safe and like kind of really test the waters on your opponent's reactions. So 2-4-3 again, knockdown on hit, -15 on block. And just like RFF 2-4-4 and RFF 2-4 forward, if the second hit hits, it is more or less it is a natural combo on counter hit, if only from the second hit. And that's you're gonna rack up damage from that. So you can surprise them instead of like doing it from 4-3, you can do it from 2-4-3. The next jab string I need to talk about is one more popular one, 2-3. Now, I thought this move did not jail. It does, apparently. It does jail. Bring in, put it to crouching guard, 2-3, jails. It jails. So you can kind of just throw it out. Let's say you have a sequence like, I don't know, down 3-4, RFS 2-3. Okay, maybe not in that situation. Obviously, when down 3-4 hits, alright, you can duck after that. Oh, not that sequence. RFF 2, something like that. Okay, not that sequence. Obviously, any sequence I'm about to cook up on block or even on hit, that's when the opponent can duck that other option. But if you just want to throw it out, you can. And if that's the first thing they're gonna block, it will jail. Obviously, if it is a follow-up, just like with all moves that jail, you can duck the option. So if they have space, like again, like after down 3-4, they can punish it. And if they saw you do a 2 and then they duck, they can potentially catch you. But if they don't catch you, well, on counter hit, you don't necessarily get the launch. You get the full string with extra damage. So that's again 26 damage, 27 damage. And on hit, that's +2 on hit. It's lesser frame data to work with. And of course, if we check the backdash situation, yeah. But DF1 +2. DF1 +2. So there's that. And of course, at -7, there does create some pushback. It's kind of like back 4 on block. And RFF, what do you call that? Back 3 on block. There is some pushback on it. Just like RFF 1. But that's even farther compared to what do you call that? Back 4 or RFF back 4. So the 2-3 does create some space. You can do that. But 2-4-4 would create more space if you were looking for space. So on counter hit, again, right, it's only 27 damage. But if they do miss the first one, you'll get the properties of RFF back 3. Because that one, if I show you RFF back 3, that does counter hit. So if you get just the 2 that, you can surprise them. So one of my favorite ways of surprising an opponent, usually when they're trying to step, so let's say you get the RFF DF4, and they try to step that situation on block, you show them the 2-3. And they're gonna get, they're gonna get hit. You can do that with other stuff. Let's say 1-2-4, RFS4, RFS4, RFSF4, then 2-3. If they're trying to step in between, down 3-4, 2-3. Like if you're not gonna protect yourself with RFS F4-4, you do RFS 1-2, RFS 2-3. You protect yourself, and then they get launched as they attempt to punish it. Not all the time. Again, it's a slower one. That's why it's the second or third best option you can use to protect yourself in that kind of situation. But you can do that for a lot. Like 2-3, like that. It's nice. And it's the same thing with like 2 back 4. The next jab string that I want to talk about. Again, 10 frames as well, and 13 frames if it comes from RFS. This one is +13 on hit. -9 on block with some pushback. And of course, on counter hit, you get extra damage. So again, that's 34 damage on counter hit. And 33 damage. Again, +1. +1 damage. And if the first hit whiffs, you get all the properties of, what do you call that? Counter hit RFF back 4, which will launch it. And that's great because you get all the damage in the world. Now, this move does not jail compared to RFF 2-4, RFF 2-3, and RFF 2-4-4 if you don't delay the last hit. This does not jail. So there is room for your opponent to punish you if you just press it. But also there is room for your opponent to mess up if they may get late with the punish. And they'll just insta tailspin into a free 75 damage for you or for Hwoarang. So using these strings, I kind of mentioned it as we were like describing the moves and how it's done, even with like the backdash and some sidestep scenarios. But for the most part, it is a very valuable jab. Like the moment you're in RFF, like you can just stutter here, throw out a jab, do a 2-1, do a 2-4. Like the only con that I can really think of this jab string is that there's no high mid. This is high jail, high jail into Flamingo for extra plus frames into a mix-up. You have high into a surprise counter hit launch, high mid, and that's kind of like the only mid from the RFF series. So I just wanted to let you know about these jab strings. And yeah, that's the lesson for today. I've been Frontier, and I'll see you in the next advanced Horang lesson.